All right, so a few minutes have gone by and we're back. And this is the simulation that we ended up with. It's pretty cool, actually. Better than expected. Basically, we can see lots of stuff now. We can see it's colliding, it's kind of snaking, it's crawling along the floor, maybe. We see these fast moving regions have all this disturbance, but then as it slows down, it's not continually disturbed and being ripped apart. That's something you often see with uh, simulations that maybe weren't set up maybe as well as they could be. Their velocity fields will keep getting ripped apart by the turbulence or ripped apart by the disturbance that keeps going. But ours knows, hey, slow down. Don't be as disturbed if there's not as much velocity. And you can see that it's allowed to kind of just drift out into being calm over here. So we've got different events happening all over the place. This is because of our wild sourcing. We've got the slow drift from our turbulence. We've got our dissipation. Everything that the building blocks we've been seeing before. Except now we also have this simple collision on the ground, and we've got this the different speeds, the amounts of disturbance all over the place. Cool. So that's great. So just a few last bits of housekeeping before we finally send this off to the farm, or just running it overnight. I'm gonna put this back to the 300. You can do 600 if your computer can afford it. I would probably usually do 600 in an actual production, but this is my poor little home computer. Put these subsets back up to 3 because why not? It'll just look nicer. And actually, if you intend on using, so the next lesson, the whole next entire lesson, not the next chapter, the next lesson is going to be all about shaders, lighting, rendering, and all that great stuff. So if you want to use this simulation that you're going to do now for that next lesson, I would say preemptively go to your PyroSolver and turn on, I already did it, I guess, but it's going to look like this when you get to it. Turn on Enable Rest. Make sure dual rest field is on. Set frames between solve to 10 and set rest advection rate to 1. Similarly, go to the smoke object itself. This is really stupid how they have this. Again, this is one of those like pro tips, learn from this and don't have to figure it out later. Go to the initial data tab and turn on add rest field. It'll look like this when you get to it. Just turn it on. Leading at 0.5 is fine. So the rest field thing here and the rest field thing here under the rest fields tab, make sure that that's all on. I'm not going to explain why now, except to say that if you're familiar with the way UV coordinates work, I'll keep playing this while I'm talking because it looks cool. If you're familiar with the way UV coordinates work to apply a texture to a solid object, the rest fields are going to advect. The way that smoke is being sent through your simulation here, it's going to advect a coordinate system through this, and that's going to allow us to texture our smoke using normal shading techniques, using a noise pattern. We're going to be able to add in extra fine detail into this. Again, that's all I'm going to say for now. Just that if you are going to use this later, turn it on now before you run your simulation. That way we have that data later and you don't have to rerun your whole sim as soon as you start the next lesson. And in fact, we'll need to save those. So just put rest and rest2 here. Type it right. There we go. It's going to take up more disk space, of course, but it's well worth it. You'll be able to squeeze a lot more interesting detail out of our sim as a post-process. So anyway, you're not going to see that in the simulation here. It's not going to be stored as density. We'll do it later with the shader. Okay, so enough about that. Save it and do the same thing. This, as long as you started from the scene from the last lesson, everything else should flow nicely. It's going to read in the simulation here to the cache sim. This is pointing to your cache sim. Point it to some new cool location that maybe won't overwrite your old one. I'm just going to call this lesson 2. And maybe also change where this is going. Call this one lesson 2 as well. Call it the version one there. Cool. I'm gonna do 96 frames because, you know, we get the idea. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Well, I guess I'll wrap it up after we see the render. So I don't hope you enjoyed this lesson yet, but soon I will hope that. And there we go. And as usual, we'll see that show up, and it's going to do the whole simulation. And I'm going to go to sleep now, and I will talk to you tomorrow.